Good afternoon. Welcome to Exiles TV. Glad to have you along with us. I'm Bill Profita. Kevin Gallagher, recuperating from his chemotherapy and radiation treatments, which, as I understand it, are done. So he will be back with us very, very soon, and I'm so glad to hear that again. He thanks all of you for all of your concern, all of your prayers, the well wishes you have sent, and we will see him right here sometime in the very near future. Congratulations to LSU baseball. They're extending Paul Maneri's season. His retirement can't start just yet. They really came back from behind and beat the Oregon Ducks last night in Eugene. So they now move on to the Super Regional in Nashville. That game will be Friday night, I believe, at 6 p.m. our time.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh, excuse me, Saturday. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Saturday, 6 p.m. our time on ESPN2. So you can watch it wherever you're watching me. You'll be able to watch LSU play as well. Now then, back to the body count in Baton Rouge. If you were here for Clarence's show, Clarence was talking about the murder rate in Chicago and what a shooting gallery it has become. And it's just actually now, in the last 5 or 6 years, getting a lot of attention. Certain segments of Chicago have always been a shooting gallery. Always. I grew up there. As a kid, I remember gang violence and drug violence in a few very large neighborhoods that was so pervasive you dared not even ride the subway train through these neighborhoods. You'd take another train and transfer rather than take the direct route to White Sox Park, Comiskey, as a matter of fact. And as sad as what is happening in Chicago right now, with 5 people dead in one weekend, hey, didn't we just have 3 right here in Baton Rouge, including an 18-month-old child? As bad as 241 murders so far in the city of Chicago sounds, right here in Baton Rouge, we're knocking on the door of 70. And if you do the math, our per capita murder rate is higher than Chicago's. There are a lot of reasons for it. None of them are reasons that people seem to want to hear. I have always been a big supporter of the Greater Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce, BRAC, as they call themselves. There are a lot of very smart people there. They know we need people that work on economic development, bringing businesses into this city. So I was a little bit upset last week, and their board of directors made public a resolution that they had supplied saying that the state of Louisiana should refuse all federal unemployment enhancements to force people to go back to work. Why? Because they see the service industry, restaurants, bars, having trouble getting people back in because they're making more money on unemployment than they were making working those restaurants and bars. Now, as far as targeting only one sector with a broad, sweeping resolution, I thought that was a problem. But I have never in my life heard them sit as a board of directors and make a broad, sweeping resolution calling on state and local government to do something substantial about the crime that we have in the largest parish in this state, East Baton Rouge Parish, and in the crown jewel of cities, Orleans Parish and New Orleans. I didn't hear one damn thing about that. But I guess since their offices are downtown, they go a lot of the restaurants there, and they see a lot of the restaurant owners singing the blues about not being able to get enough people back in. They thought that was a good resolution to make. By the way, it doesn't take into account all the people who had executive level jobs in this city who lost them due to COVID, and that unemployment is paying their mortgage. They're not talking about that. Shame. Shame on our business development arm not coming out strongly about the crime. And if you don't think that having the kind of crime rate we have, with gunfire murders that start with altercations or beefs or arguments at the rate of 1.5 per day, you are absolutely insane. We'll talk about the latest one. Chamber of Commerce murder. This is what I call it. Not that the Chamber of Commerce did it, but that it's really bad for business development when you have stupid murders. You know what? A business understands. If 4 guys go in to rob a bank and the bank guard pulls a gun and shooting happens and somebody dies, what they don't understand is when 2 brothers are arguing over the last pork chop and one of them shoots the other. That makes the city look completely stupid, untrainable, and completely unpredictable. And guess what? Businesses don't like that. Back in a moment on Exiles TV.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Back to Exiles TV. Glad to have you with us this afternoon. In our latest murder by gunfire, again, it was dusk, so I won't say broad daylight, but it happened at a place where Baton Rouge police officers congregate because their fuel man cards work there. At the Be Quick, that is attached to the Benny's Car Wash on Perkins Road. Again, squarely in zip code 70808. So things are definitely moving out of 02 and 05 and spreading everywhere. What happened last night is Joseph Tatney, age 40, of Plaquemine, was shot and killed in the parking lot behind the Be Quick on Perkins Road at about 7 p.m. Jarmal Jackson, age 19, of Baton Rouge, was arrested at the scene. According to BRPD, officers were inside the convenience store at the time of the shooting, were able to quickly arrest the suspected shooter. There was a road rage incident that happened on I-10, and that's what led to all this. According to BRPD, and again, this is early in the investigation, some type of altercation. Remember our police chief and our senior police officer, our DA, call it, they beef with each other. Somebody's got a beef. So there was some sort of a beef between the two men right before the shooting. Jarmal has been booked into Parish Prison on charges of second-degree murder and illegal use of a weapon. How much of this stupid crime are we going to tolerate? Where is the outrage? Where are the people that are calling for looking into the genesis of these high crime areas? Because I certainly don't see it. You know what? And I mean, people whose gene pool is so thin, so shallow, people who couldn't light a 40-watt bulb, people whose IQ is room temperature at best, who are stupid enough to roll into a convenience store that has 4 marked BRPD units in the parking lot out front, and then go around back and shoot somebody multiple times because one cut one off and one flipped the other one off on the interstate. Do we really need this kind of stupidity circulating in our fine society? And if they're that stupid, and their peer group is that stupid, then perhaps a little directed policing, doing a sweep for stupid, might help alleviate some of this crime. But I believe that takes our murder rate now to 69. I forgot about the stabbing in East Baton Rouge Parish. Most of them by gunfire, but there was in fact a stabbing on Monday. And if you listen to my buddy Clarence, and he was talking about Chicago and the high number of murders they have there, I want you to put this into your calculator. Run the numbers. Our metro area, East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office sharing jurisdiction with BRPD, we clock out in the metro inside East Baton Rouge Parish at about 325K. All right, inside Chicago, Cook County, they clock out at about 3.5 million. We are knocking at the door of 70, and I dare say we'll have 70 by the end of this week. Hell, we may have 70 by the time I'm done with this program. And they've got 241 in Chicago. Our murder rate in East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana, per capita is worse than Chicago by a factor of 1.5. This is a shame. This is a crime. And I want you to understand, and I am not saying this personally, or I'm saying it personally, but it's not meant to be a personal affront. The lowest murder rate we had in recent years was in 2016. Half of what it is today. In the first 5 months of this year, we have surpassed the murder rate for all 12 months of 2016. There was also something else that happened in 2016. There was an election. And in that election, someone who did not hold the office, but was campaigning for the office, campaigned on a platform of replacing the police chief who had brought us to the lowest murder rate in the last 20 years. So everybody, talk amongst yourselves. Try to come up with something of a solution. It's not going to be pretty. Back in a moment, Congressman Garrett Graves joins us on Exiles TV. Stick around.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with the Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
This is State Treasurer John Schroeder urging you to check your mailbox. We just mailed out $4.5 million of unclaimed property checks to people across Louisiana. Unclaimed property is lost money turned over to the Department of Treasury so we can return it to you. The process is so easy, you can claim it right from your phone. Check for yourself, check for your family, and don't forget to check your businesses. This is your money. Claim it. Check your mailbox. And cash your check. It's that easy.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
The selection is deep, and the time to get a used car is right now from the Team Automotive Group. Shop and save on over 125 certified vehicles and choose from more than 700 pre-owned vehicles at any of our team locations. Or log on anytime at teamautouse.com.
Welcome back to Exiles TV. Glad to have you along with us. Joining us now, Congressman Garrett Graves, a Republican from the 6th District of Louisiana. How are you?
Hey, doing well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. I heard that when redistricting happens, if it happens, that your boundaries are going to change a little bit.
Well, they're going to have to. Preliminary numbers look like our district has grown too big, too many people. And the two North Louisiana districts, represented by Congresswoman Julia Ledlow and Congressman Mike Johnson, have shrunk in population. So those districts will have to grow, and I think it's likely that the other 4 districts will have to shrink a little bit, which is just going to cause a bit of a reconfiguration. But of course, you always try and keep them as close to the current districts as you can.
Well, and the Constitution calls for them to have a certain number of people inside of them, so that you don't have one district that has 2 million people and one that has 20,000.
Yeah, that's right. And so they're normally in Louisiana around 750,000 people per district, and it looks like, for example, Congresswoman Ledlow's district may be about 80,000 short now as a result of changes in population over the last 10 years. But we're going to get the exact numbers sometime in August or September, and we'll know what needs to be done and what changes need to be made.
Now, are the lines redrawn by the state legislature?
They are. They're done by the Louisiana legislature. That's the way that they've always been done. and they're going to have to come up with a plan that'll be approved by the House and the Senate, and that'll go to the governor for signature, and then those districts would apply for the congressional elections next year.
Very, very interesting stuff. One of the things that you've been talking about is something that's been talked about a lot here, and that is drainage, flooding, things like that. I noticed that you publicly asked people to send you photos of their drainage problems in your district, and there wasn't any part of your district that got spared. I mean, you have part of Tangipahoa Parish, as I understand
well,
it.
we go right to that line, right to the line of Livingston and Tangipahoa, so right there, Springfield, Albany, and then
they had lots of flooding.
They did. Yeah.
East Baton Rouge Parish had lots of flooding.
Ascension had a lot of flooding. Iberville, Assumption, even Lafourche and St. Charles. It's amazing, and the reason. You know, Bill, this is frustrating, and you're right. You and I have been talking about this for years. And look, I just heard you talking about crime and murder rate. You and I have talked about schools and education. We've talked about roads. We've talked about jobs and economic development. None of that stuff matters if everything's underwater. And so it's so frustrating because we've secured $3 billion in federal funds to fix some of these problems. And for example, one of the biggest pots is a $1.2 billion appropriation we gave the state of Louisiana. They've only spent about $300,000 of it.
Why?
I believe it's a lack of urgency. I think it's a lack of urgency, and I think it's a lack of a appropriate process to pick the best projects. And so the reason we ask people to identify the flooding areas for us is because apparently the people in charge of this program aren't capable of doing that. We want to go ahead and collect this data, aggregate it, and send it to the state and to the parishes and make sure they know where the problems are.
How much control, because there's generally federal money, not just in the funding you were talking about, but also in road and drainage projects. They're always one after the other. And we've got a big, it's not called the Green Light Plan, Move BR Plan, which is roads and drainage. Can the feds look at the city government and say, we have an emergency with drainage, stop this, do that, and we'll reimburse you on the back end?
As a matter of fact, they can. And of this $1.2 billion, they will reimburse work that was done 2 years ago. And so that could be done, but it is going to take the state actually allocating the dollars. I mean, look, as you and I know, we've been talking about this for years now. This $1.2 billion was secured because of what happened right here in 2016.
Yeah.
And so to see the state putting this program together, that they're looking all over the place, that they're reinventing the wheel. I mean, in many cases, we know what the needs are. We know what the projects are. We know that canals need to be cleaned out, that we need to do all the clearing and snagging. We know that we need to improve the flow down the A-Meet. We know we need to finish the Co-Meet project. All of these things that have been identified and for years and years. And so it's really frustrating to see a slow bureaucratic process that largely is just, as I said, reinventing the wheel.
There are people that wonder, and I must admit that I'm one of them, that when it's already been funded and things aren't happening, you start to wonder about the contractor selection process, the engineering selection process. And if there are people sitting with the checkbook who say, well, I'd like a certain number of this kind of contractor, I'd like a certain number of that kind of engineering firm, is there any evidence that that is slowing things down?
Well, I'll tell you, so after the 2016 flood, we gave the state of Louisiana $1.7 billion. This is separate from the flood protection funds, but it's being run by the same state office. To date, here we are more than 4 years later, $1.7 billion. And this statistic, I mean, think about this statistic. 4 years later, $1.7 billion. They have paid contractors $500 million to not cut checks, not hand out, to offer $666 million to flood victims. They've paid contractors, I'm going to say it again, $500 million to process claims, to hand out to offer $666 million of the $1.7 billion that we secured for the state. This same office is using effectively a same bureaucratic, slow approach to get the $1.2 billion out the door, which is why I think it's, again, $300,000 that they've actually spent of the $1.2 billion, despite the fact that we secured these funds in February of 2018.
How does anyone on earth justify spending $750 million to offer $500 million?
I don't get it. It's infuriating. And here we are. People are calling us and they're like, why haven't I got my money? And you know, to a large degree, we've done our role in this. We've secured the funds. We don't execute the program, but it is so frustrating to see this bureaucracy. And meanwhile, you know, you have people at home that are flooded, or people at home that are still trying to rebuild their houses. You've got money in the bank. I mean, anybody can connect the dots, except for apparently this federal program, or excuse me, the state-run program with federal funding, and it just doesn't make sense.
Well, is there any kind of a drop-dead date on this money if they don't get it out and do it what it's supposed to do?
They would ultimately lose the funds, but unfortunately, this program doesn't have a fast track record, so it's not imminent.
And there's really nothing you can do except, hey, come on, fellas, move it.
Well, we've asked them to allocate money directly to parishes. We've asked them to use, for example, the state's coastal master plan to help identify projects that have already been evaluated and determined to have merit, which of course the master plan goes everywhere effectively from Point Capee and East Baton Rouge down to the coast. So this is a wide swath of Louisiana representing the majority of the population. Rather than coming in and reinventing an entire new process, paying a bunch of consultants, engineers to study the whole state and come up with a whole new list of projects.
Now, is this an existing bureaucracy, or did they create a new bureaucracy for this?
It was an existing office that created an entirely new bureaucracy.
Can we say who?
I'm happy to say it. It's the Office of Community Development within the state of Louisiana, and just the program they administer the community development block grant funds for the state of Louisiana, but there are specific funds that we granted in the aftermath of the 2016 flood for disaster recovery. We did a second pot of money specifically for flood protection projects. Those two programs together are $2.9 billion. And the funds are just very, very slowly going out the door, but the contractors are making all kinds of money.
Well, and again, I don't know that any of this at this point is doable, but every time you've gotten so much as 35 cents for highways and you've turned it over to DOTD, they're spending it within 35 minutes. Why don't we let them do this?
Look, I've made a number of suggestions. The agency where I used to work at the state of Louisiana, the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority, they execute. They were doing programs to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year. I think there are a number of better options that are out there. Certainly, the Department of Transportation has a better track record in many cases as well. I don't think this is the way to execute programs, especially when you have something that has the urgency of this. Getting money in people's hands to rebuild their homes 4.5 years after a flood, or protecting people from flooding again whenever we've had these record rainfalls in recent weeks and months. It's just inexcusable. It really is.
So you're going to get a lot of photos from people in Iberville, in Ascension, in East Baton Rouge Parish. What are you going to do with them?
Yeah, and so here's what we're going to do. As I said before, Bill, apparently the state folks have been unable to identify where the priority areas are. So we're going to go ahead and get all this data. We've asked them to send us the addresses or coordinates on where this is happening. That way we can go ahead and collate all the data, send it to the respective parishes and to the state, and help them identify where the biggest problems are. Look, I've been out there on my own. I've seen things that I'm convinced I can go take a sledgehammer, and I'm not kidding, a sledgehammer, and at least partially fix. We can go clean out litter in some places that are blocking drainage from going through. I mean, these aren't situations where you've got to bring in these huge bulldozers or forklifts, or bring in excavators or other large equipment. In some cases, these are really inexpensive, really quick fixes. But we've got to help to flag these or identify them to the people that are working on it, because apparently they've been unable to do that so far.
It sounds as though they need some direction.
That's a fair statement, I think. Absolutely fair statement.
And it also sounds as though they created a whole new bureaucracy so they could create a whole lot of political patronage jobs inside that bureaucracy.
I believe that's exactly what's going on. And look, Bill, you and I, you have a problem, you have a solution. You have money in the bank, you have a problem. Tell me why we can't simply execute this and just get the dollars out the door. If the state's having trouble doing this, develop a formula, give it to the parishes, do something to get the money out the door. But it's inexcusable to have billions of dollars sitting in the bank, to have people flooding over and over again, destroying their livelihoods. It's just inexcusable. This is a failure of government to perform. And you have government re-victimizing people. It's just, this is not the way that government's supposed to function. It's supposed to be functioning for the people. And that's not what's happening.
And it's not supposed to move like a glacier.
No, it's not. It's not.
We'll be back in a moment with more. Congressman Garrett Graves, stick around.
Valello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing.
You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day.
Valello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with the Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
The first big sale of the year is here. The Dream Garage Spring Event is underway at Team Honda. For the first time ever, get $12.50 customer cash on every new 21 Passport, or get 0% for 60 months on every new 21 Pilot at Louisiana's #1 Honda dealer, Team Honda.
This is State Treasurer John Schroeder urging you to check your mailbox. We just mailed out $4.5 million of unclaimed property checks to people across Louisiana. Unclaimed property is lost money turned over to the Department of Treasury so we can return it to you. The process is so easy, you can claim it right from your phone. Check for yourself, check for your family, and don't forget to check your businesses. This is your money. Claim it. Check your mailbox. And cash your check. It's that easy.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready, and health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, call the number on the screen now and speak with a live healthcare consultant. Don't wait. Get the coverage you need now.
So I got to connect.
Welcome back to Exiles TV. Our guest today, Congressman Garrett Graves. Infrastructure bill. Garrett told me during the break that he's flying back to D.C. this afternoon, and they'll be marking up the infrastructure bill. So explain to everybody what the process is here.
Sure. So on Friday, they introduced legislation. It was over 1,200 pages, and told us that we're going to be voting on it, amending it in committee beginning on Wednesday morning. Today, they released a revised version that is, if I remember right, 1,383 pages.
So they're not editing, they're adding.
So we're trying to go through all of that. And the infrastructure bill, what it is, it's largely the funds for our roads and bridges. And as you know, we could spend every penny they could possibly send to us down here to fix our roads and bridges. We have some of the worst traffic in America. For a mid-sized city, it has been ranked the worst or the second worst in America. As you and I have talked about, worse than Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Denver, all these cities that are much larger than us, our traffic's worse. And so what we're doing is we're working to try and focus the infrastructure dollars on real infrastructure, things like getting a new Mississippi River bridge, things like ultimately fixing that configuration of traffic coming off the bridge into 2 full lanes, getting the additional lanes on I-10. Look, I could go on and on. I know you could as well. We need to fix LA1, we need to fix LA30, need to continue looking at how to upgrade 190, potentially a loop. I mean, all kinds of things that need to be done, and we could spend billions and billions of dollars. The bill, 2% of the vehicles today are electric vehicles, 2%.
2%.
They want to spend $1 billion a year building electric charging stations. $1 billion a year building electric charging stations for that 2% of vehicles that are out there. As you know, all over Baton Rouge today, you have charging stations that private companies have put in place. You can go to Whole Foods, you can go to hotels and others. LSU, you can have the government pay for it and go to LSU and get charged, your car charged. So what they've done is they've sort of lost the focus on what it is we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be building roads and bridges. The president's come out and talked about this social infrastructure concept.
That scares me to death.
I think it is a huge mistake. And I met with him for 2 hours and I told him, look, why in the world would you want to take this failed approach at infrastructure that's happened at the federal level? We should have had a new bridge 30 or 40 years ago. Why would you want to replicate that record of failure into other categories of infrastructure? Don't do that to anyone.
And
he came back and he said that this is America's chance to win this next century, that it's America's chance to lead. I agree with him, and I appreciate him bringing up infrastructure. I think it is a priority for this country, but we've got to focus on those core areas of infrastructure: roads, bridges, ports, waterways, flooding, airports, things along those lines. Those are a federal obligation. This other stuff, that's why we have state governments, local governments, churches, communities, families. That's what they need to be doing, and you can't muddy the waters in all this.
Will you and your colleagues who want it to say roads, bridges, coastal protection, that's all infrastructure, will you be able to get most of the touchy-feely social stuff out of there? I mean, we don't need another community center in Baton Rouge that does one-eyed mental health testing. We just don't need that.
What I think you're going to see happen is you're going to see the 1,300 pages probably grow during the committee voting process. It's probably going to take a couple of days for us to get through. We do have amendments that we are offering. One of them that says that 90% of the funds in the bill have to be committed to construction of core areas of infrastructure, not these other, as you described, touchy-feely things. Number two, we've got amendments that help to streamline the process. There is no reason why, for example, they are doing a 25th analysis of where a new bridge needs to be, telling us it's going to take 3 more years to identify just where the alignment of a new bridge needs to go. Give me a kid, give me a crayon, they can figure it out. This is unacceptable when you have the urgency of the need that we have. Again, some of the worst traffic in America for a mid-sized city here. So we are going to be working on efficiencies, working on trying to focus the bill on the core federal responsibilities and not expanding it and extending it into areas where government has no business operating.
We have had pretty good luck in Louisiana over the last 4 or 5 years, thank you, and thank Clay Higgins and thank Mike Johnson, for getting our interstates rebuilt fairly well. But I hear that the interstate system in other parts of the country, like Texas, just crumbling. And of course, when you're connecting to Louisiana, and it's a major business hub, that affects us too. What are you seeing in this bill that might help some of that?
Well, so what we're trying to do, I keep talking about these these core areas where the federal government has an obligation, and interstates is a perfect example of that. You mentioned that we've been able to get some wins on interstates, and you're right. We've been able to secure about $1 billion in extra funds, and that's largely a result of an amendment that we wrote to the last infrastructure bill that prioritized some of the areas down here. But what we're trying to do in the bill is trying to focus on those roads, and I can't say this enough, that are really federal obligations. We don't need to get into these roads that run through neighborhoods. That's not the federal government. It's not federal taxpayers' responsibility. That's why you have parishes, counties, local governments that should be handling those things. So we're trying to focus on U.S. highways, on interstates, on the national highway system, on what they designate as high priority corridors or high priority freight corridors that really have that federal nexus, or roads that go in or affect multiple states.
Well, and I believe you're still in the Transportation Committee.
We are, yes.
It appears that you all have done a good job with getting some relief into the public airports, the air carrier airports. I know Baton Rouge has received a tremendous amount of money, as has Lake Charles, where we are also seen, and Lafayette, and it's being put to good use. If we can just steer this bill so that it all gets put to good use.
We as you know, I've been serving as the lead Republican on the aviation subcommittee, been able to help get some record dollars to some of our airports down here, making sure that they're prepared and ready to go as we're seeing air traffic already hit pre-pandemic numbers and just been this surge of travelers that I think have been so pent up. But look, I can't say this enough, and everybody here knows it. We could get $20 billion for roads and bridges in Louisiana, and we could spend every penny of it. Finishing I-49 and connecting it up in Shreveport area, finishing I-49 connection between Lafayette and New Orleans, again, new bridge crossings, getting I-10 with additional lanes on it, the West Bank Expressway from that 415 Port Allen exit all the way down to LA1 toward Plaquemine, LA30, all the way from Gonzales, where you have the petrochemical industry corridor, all the way to where it turns into Nicholson, into Baton Rouge. That road needs to be updated to more of an expressway with additional lanes. We could spend every penny of that $20 billion. So rather than trying to broaden this definition of infrastructure, we're trying to help focus on the core areas of infrastructure where we need to be focusing on a better project development delivery process to where we can get these projects turning dirt within months and years, not within decades and longer. That's what we need to be doing to make sure that we're truly addressing the public's priorities.
The federal government did a very good job of streamlining the distribution and vaccination program with COVID.
They did.
Is it possible to look at a giant infrastructure bill, which would affect all 50 states, just like COVID did, and streamline it so we can actually get shovels in the ground sooner rather than later?
You know, Bill, it's a great analogy. So President Trump, as you know, started Operation Warp Speed. Vice President Pence was running it. President Biden, thankfully, has taken that and really, continued it, and it's worked. It's worked on getting vaccines out there to the public. And this it's not even close to the comparison of the second best one of these. Not even close. This one has blown away everything. But here's the deal. We understood that there was great urgency here. So we put together a process that reflected the urgency. So rather than taking 4 to 5 years, which is normal to get a vaccine approved, then a couple of years to get the distribution and logistics process, manufacturing and distribution put in place, this was all done within roughly a year to year and a half. I mean, that is remarkable, but it's because of the urgency. We've got projects right here, and I can't say it, I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. The new bridge crossing the Mississippi River, that has huge urgency. You've got to develop a project development and delivery process that reflects the urgency. If we're looking at building another bridge crossing, and we're not going to need it for another 20 or 30 years, you can take a process that is a little bit more thorough, analyzing things, but in this case, you got to get to 80% of the best decision making you can. You move forward, you have adaptive management to address the remaining 20% till you get where you need to be.
Adaptive management. I'd like to see that written in the bill. Matter of fact, it should be on every lectern and every desk in the United States Congress.
Look, you can have the best computer models, the best engineers and contractors, but I guarantee you, when you go to build something, you're going to have conditions that were different than you anticipated. You got to be able to adapt to them.
So when do we start to flip on C-SPAN and see some of the debate on this?
It's going to start tomorrow at I believe believe 11 a.m. here, because I think it's 10 a.m. Eastern time, so I think it's 11 a.m. here. It'll be on C-SPAN or transportation.house.gov. Transportation.house.gov. It'll be going on. Get your popcorn, get your coffee, because we're likely going to be meeting for hours and hours.
Going to be interesting to see. Congressman Garrett Graves, it is always a pleasure to have you with us. I know we've had kind of a gap because we've changed time slots and all that, but hopefully we'll have you with us a little more regularly.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Bill.
And we thank you very much. We're going to take a brief break here, and then we will be back to wrap it up on Exiles TV. Stick around.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to greystonecountryclub.com.
Hi, business owners. Phase 3. Woohoo! But do your customers know you're back? Well, that's where the Clarence Bugg Show and Pelican Broadcasting can help. Right now, we've got great rates on advertising packages to help you get the word out. Shoot me an email at bugsclarence@gmail.com. Or better yet, call me up. I'd love to talk with you. 225-485-6839. Let's get together and make Phase 3 the best it can possibly be.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Welcome back to Exiles TV. Glad to have you with us. Our thanks to Congressman Garrett Graves. We will be seeing him a little more regularly. But again, this transportation and infrastructure bill that they're going to be debating, again, you can watch it on C-SPAN and watch it on transportation.com, I believe. But it's going to be very, very interesting because there's a lot for Louisiana that is in this infrastructure bill. So, we got a little gee whiz James Bond stuff going on. I don't know if you heard about this, and there is not much written about it yet, but I expect that we are going to hear more, or we may not hear more at all. But the Justice Department announced last night, kind of late, that they have successfully seized millions of dollars in cryptocurrency that Colonial Pipeline paid to a group of cyber criminals who hacked in to the company via ransomware last month. Now, we have been having a lot of these hacker ransomware cases, even in little bitty tiny towns. I saw one in a small town of only 19,000 people in Alabama, and they wanted $30,000, and the city comptroller said, all we can scrape together right now is $3,500. And they said yes. But now, This is some serious James Bond stuff that our Justice Department has been able to pull off. The Colonial Pipeline hack and ransomware attack was probably the biggest that we know of in the last 2 or 3 years. And they paid an undisclosed amount of money, but some say it was in the tens of millions of dollars in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrency, to the hackers who are known as DarkSide. Now, what little we know about DarkSide is we know that they seem to live in Russia, but nobody can tie a can to their tail that's saying that they are working for or with the Russian government. But during a news conference late yesterday, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco explained that operatives within the Justice Department were able to do a recapture of the cryptocurrency. Here's the quote. Earlier today, the Department of Justice has found and recaptured the majority of the ransom Colonial Pipeline Company paid to the DarkSide network in the wake of last month's ransomware attack. Ransomware attacks are always unacceptable, but when they target critical infrastructure, we will spare no effort in our response. She continued, today we turn the tables on DarkSide by going after the entire ecosystem that fuels ransomware and other digital extortion attacks, including criminal proceeds in the form of digital currencies. We will continue to use all of our tools and all of our resources to increase the cost and consequences of ransomware attacks and other cyber-enabled attacks. Now, I don't know about you folks, but this is some pretty serious covert operation that I'm glad that they seem to be able to pull off. If you remember, when we have talked about these ransomware attacks, and it was a Discover card about 2 years ago got hacked, and they lost information. They didn't lose any money until they paid the ransom. And then we had a power cooperative out in, Oregon, got hacked. There have been more than one of these. But the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack actually stopped the flow of petroleum, gasoline, aviation fuel, and oil in the largest pipeline operation in the United States, and caused gasoline shortages in about 14 states for about 5 or 6 days. And we heard that they paid. And then they got an encryption key back to electronically, digitally disable the ransomware so that they could access all of their files and operating systems once again. But when we heard all that, we heard who we think did it, we heard where we think they are, and we also heard there is just no way to capture these people. And we didn't think to ask, well, can you capture their money? Can you let them do all the ransomware they want without capturing them physically, but can you trace the cryptocurrency and claw that back? Apparently, they now can. That is just absolutely amazing to me. Let me ask you, how many of you know anything significant about cryptocurrency? I just learned a little bit in the last few weeks, certainly not enough to where I want to get involved in it, and certainly not enough to be called an expert. But you know, every currency on the face of the earth that is negotiable has something of physical value that backs it, or did it one time, and then moved over to basically assets backing it, full faith and credit. So, for example, in Great Britain, it is sterling, it is silver that is what backs the pound sterling. Theoretically, if they have in circulation paper notes that amount to 500 billion pounds sterling, theoretically, they have 500 billion in physical sterling that backs that up. In the United States, we were on the gold standard for many, many, many years. We went off the gold standard, but we still have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of gold ingots, as well as silver and platinum, in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And if you don't believe we do, try driving up to that front gate one day and see if you can get in. You won't be looking at an MP with an M16. You will be looking at a tank pointing its main weapon at your vehicle. So, what nobody can answer with cryptocurrency is what backs it. What is it based upon? And the way people get Bitcoin is they use supercomputers that suck up a hell of a lot of energy over a long period of time to solve complex riddles. And if they solve the riddles, they actually are awarded Bitcoin. But that doesn't tell you who's backing it unless it's the power companies that are paying them to use all this excess energy. One frame house that had a Bitcoin mining operation in it used in a single day as much energy as the entire village the house was located in. So apparently the people in our Justice Department have done some wizard stuff and found a way to grab it back. Kudos to them. We look forward to our next visit. We thank you again for joining us. Make sure you tune into the replay, 10 o'clock tonight. And until we meet again, stay dry, stay well, stay safe. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for being a part of our show.